They're built in here on a hard timer. But we'll be right back with Aaron Glantz. He's the author of How America Lost Iraq, and then The Will to Resist is stars, right? I forgot. I'm sorry.
Listen to LRN.FM on any phone, anytime. 760-569-7753. That's 760-569-7753.
It's all live from baseball, the apple pie to bomb. Waco, Texas, Heaven's Gate, the Oklahoma bomb. The Desert Storm Syndrome experiment that went wrong.
All right, y'all, welcome back to the show. It's Anti-War Radio. I'm Scott Horton. I'm talking with Aaron Glantz. He's the author of How America Lost Iraq and The War Comes Home, Washington's Battle Against America's Veterans. And sorry about screwing that up on the way out to the break there, Aaron. Now, I actually really want to talk with you for the rest of this segment here about the veterans issues, but I think I can't really let it go on without fighting with you a little bit about Barack Obama. I mean, really what he's done is stick by the status of forces agreement that George Bush was forced to sign by Nouri al-Maliki, a.k.a. Muqtada al-Sadr, and the Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani. They won the war. George Bush lost it, and all Barack Obama is doing is, facing up to that fact and getting out of there because he's got no choice but to get out of there, right?
Well, I don't disagree with you, but you said that Barack Obama is willing to face up to facts and reality. I would say that that's a significant difference from our previous president.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, he wouldn't have signed the SOFA other than it was November '08, and he was a lame duck as lame could be and had to sign it.
And, I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm just cynical, Scott, but I've seen enough politicians break their word, go back on their word. So, I'm not, I would have rather that we be all the way out of Iraq right now, but the fact that Barack Obama has kept his word, has not tried to alter this SOFA, has not tried to manufacture a crisis. I mean, how many crises did the previous administration manufacture just to cause us to be more and more deeply involved in war?
Yeah. Well,
right?
There's been enough actual violence in Iraq this whole time, the last year and a half, that he could have cited any number of violent weeks or whatever and said that something's got to be done. No, I agree with you. In fact, this morning, right before we went on the air, right before I was calling you, I was reading through the speech from last night, and I was thinking, as much as I hate this guy, it could be McCain. It could be a hell of a lot worse. So
we have a president right now. You may not agree with everything he does on this war or agree with everything he does with regard to treatment of our veterans, but the good news is he is based in reality, He is making his decisions based on real information, not whatever ghosts were whispering into the previous president's ear.
Richard Pearl.
Yeah, not whatever John McCain, he wants to refight the Vietnam War all over again. We don't have to deal with that, So it's not perfect, but it is kind of a blessing. And, if he is true to his word and we're all the way out by 2011, I'll take it.
All right, now, so I want to get back to the betrayal of the troops here, but, I'm curious, Aaron, I know you saw some horrible things in your time spent in Iraq, watching America lose the Iraq War. Are you okay?
I'm much better than I was when I first got back. I got back in 2005, and then I have to say that I'm doing much better now, but I went through a few rough years. And I was lucky because, there's some people who believe in the kind of work I do, and I was able to get some pro bono counseling. As a journalist, one of the things that I do is write, and so that is a kind of therapy, and it has really helped me fight through a lot of things that have brought down so many of our young men and women returning home from the war. But I know what they're going through somewhat because I saw some of the same stuff. But there's some key differences, between a reporter experiencing a war and a soldier. The first is the betrayal, right? I mean, you mentioned it earlier. I was there as a disinterested party. I don't feel any sense of betrayal that they lied about the war. But if you are a soldier and you're on the front lines and you killed someone in this war, or you watch your friend die in this war being killed by the quote-unquote enemy, then the sense of betrayal from the government is much higher. And I was just in Daly City, suburb of San Francisco, where I live yesterday, talking to a family whose son committed suicide last year, 5 years after he came back from Iraq. because this war has been going on for so gosh darn long now. And, he signed up in 2000, before 9/11, and he had no particular opinion about the war in Iraq when it started, but when he got over there, he was a mortarman, so his job was to fire these huge mortars at buildings, at tanks. They don't have tanks on the other side. Huge mortars at buildings, and a lot of civilian targets, frankly, where there might be some insurgents there also. And, is it worth it? You're thinking about the people you killed. You're asking yourself, is it worth it? And then you find out that the whole war is based on a bunch of baloney. That is incredibly difficult to deal with.
Yeah, well, and especially in a world where, TV says that, and I'm sorry to keep harping on this for people who heard me say it before, but I really just resent this because I remember how stupid I was when I was 17 years old, Aaron. And on TV, they say the Marine Corps means you get to dress up real fancy and walk around with a neat sword all day and just play, basically. War is honor and valor and country and Jesus and all these things. And they never tell you about how dirty it is, how bad it stinks, how hard it is to get the replaying of the audio of people's dying screams out of your ears, or your best friend dying in your arms and what that looked like out of your head. And I saw this thing the other day. It was about dogs, how man created dogs out of wolves or whatever on the Learning Channel. And one of the examples that they used was PTSD soldiers who come home and do all these tours. They come home and they're so traumatized. What they're doing is they're giving them labs like seeing eye dogs. And the Labradors, of course, are so sensitive to human emotion and stuff that when these guys start freezing up and freaking out on the subway or wherever they are, they have their Labrador to help, bring them back to it. And these guys are extremely traumatized the rest of their lives.
Well, you mentioned the service dogs. I have a number of friends with these service dogs, and what it's about, Scott, is you lose the ability to trust other people when you've been through these experiences, sometimes. And also, if you are screwed up, it can be difficult for you to relate to your family, to relate to your friends, to relate to your spouse, to relate to your children. And so the dog, can provide the beginning of reestablishing that ability to relate to other people, and then you can work your way back into relating to the important people in your life.
Yeah. See, that's what pissed me off the most. The one line in Obama's speech that made me madder than any of the rest was about all the men who gave their lives. They did not. Each and every one of those guys wanted to come home in one piece and were trying their very best. Maybe some of them, in particular circumstances, gave their life to protect their friend in a particular firefight or something like that, provide cover for their buddies to get out or some kind of particular circumstances. But other than that, no, their lives were taken. Their lives were wasted.
Scott, the man is the president of the United States. He can't go up there and talk, even if he can't go up there and talk on television the way he might talk to his friend over a beer.
He could have just left that line out, because that's such a dirty lie that they gave their lives. They were betrayed and stabbed in the back and thrown away by the Republicans. That's what happened to them.
Hey, Scott, I want to seize on something else that you said earlier and elaborate a little bit, because you're talking about the TV and how people watch TV, and the TV tells them that if you're a Marine, you get to go in a slash uniform, you get a sword, right? How useful is a sword in Iraq, right?
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say is, I've been working on this major journalism project about our American service members who have come home and killed themselves and why they are doing that. And as I mentioned before, we have more suicides and other suspicious deaths in 2009, the first year of Obama's presidency, than we do combat deaths. And if we do leave Iraq, that trend is going to get even worse. And I'll tell you, two of the people that I've talked to and met in the last month have the same story, which is that they signed up at 17 because they love first-person shooter games that were designed by the military, like America's Army, And they thought that war was going to be just like the first-person shooter game that they played at home in front of their television or their computer. And no one, when they went in to sign up, no one in the Army recruiting office said, hey, that's just a computer game. Real war is different. So they go out to the front and they discover that, hey, war isn't like a computer game. Real people die. The smells are there. The sounds are there. And it might not be worth anything. You might kill someone else, and it might affect you differently than killing a electronic being in computer game. And the reason I'm bringing this up, and you said, how silly is that, right? Everyone knows TV isn't real. But we're talking about 17-year-olds here.
Right. Everybody, that's Aaron Glantz. Check out Aaron's books, The War Comes Home, Washington's battle against America's veterans, and How America Lost Iraq. And we got more Iraq coverage coming up.